As Maryland's redistricting process begins, so has the controversy among many African Americans. Groups are often split over whether lines should be redrawn to ensure more minority representation or to protect the state's white incumbents who have attained power on Capitol Hill. Bob Ross of the local NAACP says he's concerned that nearly half of the state's population is black or minority, yet only a quarter of Maryland legislators are.
Here in Prince George's County, like I said, we're going to look at it very carefully. And we're going to look at everybody's plan. That'd be the family behavior plan, that'd be the legislated by Congress, and or whether that be the government plan. And if it doesn't meet the certain criteria or the tests based around the Civil Rights Act Section 2, then we're going to challenge it. Because it's time now that we start correcting this. This doesn't make sense. Here we are some 50 years later, and we're still talking about voting right issues.
Maryland's Legislative Caucus is endorsing a strategy that would protect incumbents' districts while preserving and strengthening the two districts represented by African Americans. And while some African American groups have yet to decide on a redistricting plan, there is one organization that already has its own map out.
The Fannie Lou Hamer Political Action Committee is threatening to take the state to court if the districts are not redrawn to mirror the voting power of Maryland's minorities. That's
right, and joining us now to discuss the issue is Trevor Otts, the co-chairman of the grassroots group. Welcome. Tell us a little bit briefly about your organization and how you're involved in redistricting.
Well, Fannie Lou Hamer is set up to make sure that the redistricting process is fair and to make sure that the minority populations in the state of Maryland, as well as in Prince George's County, is fairly represented.
Now, you're one of the few groups who has actually designed a redistricting map. Tell us about that.
Well, our map is designed to represent the minority population in Prince George's County. And as a matter of fact, what we're pushing for is 3 congressional districts in the state of Maryland as a whole that fairly represents the minority population in the state of Maryland as things are now.
We actually have some shots of the map, so we want to try, once we see that up on the screen, we want to talk a little bit about how you've designed your map.
Okay.
You have changed which districts here, and we can see it right now.
Okay. Well, you will see that one of the districts that we will be changing is we will be bringing down what has been traditionally known as Donna Edwards District. We'll be bringing it down more into Prince George's County. Also, what we've seen with the current maps is that it does not fairly represent what the state of Maryland looks like as far as its minority population as things stand right now. One of the things that we're looking to do is we are looking to connect the southern tier of Maryland. We do believe that people in the rural district have more in common with other rural counties in the state of Maryland, and we want to make sure that those groups have representation that represents that.
And you brought up a good point, because at this point some have accused you of gerrymandering because the shape is a little bit like an L going from western Maryland down the eastern shore. It's an unusual setup that you have in terms of a district.
Actually, that represents the rural tier of Maryland, and as people who live in the rural tier, they will be able to tell you is that oftentimes their issues get blended together with people who live in the suburbs or people who live in the city. And so the map shape is designed to make sure that if you live in the rural tier, that you have representation that is similar to that it represents your community of interest.
Now, you've said that the current map right now is designed to get these incumbents reelected. Tell me a little bit about that, and why do you think
here's the thing. Relative to how the maps are drawn now and how they've been drawn in the past, you got to think about it, that if you were a politician and that was your job and you were allowed to draw the lines, your natural inclination would be to draw the lines in such a way to protect your job. And so we're not upset with the way in which they've drawn the lines, but the reality is although gerrymandering is actually legal in the state of Maryland, it does not make it right. And so our priority is not to get officials elected. Our priority is to make sure that the process is fair and that the lines represent the people who actually live in those districts. So in other words, we would love to see some of our current representatives reelected, such as Steny Hoyer and Donna Edwards, but that can't be our priority. Our priority has to first be the communities in the state of Maryland and in Prince George's County. And more importantly, we want to make sure that there's fair minority representation. So we want to make sure that we have 3 African-American districts.
All right, Trevor. Well, certainly thank you for coming in and explaining this issue, which is very complicated. The governor's Redistricting Advisory Committee is holding a public town hall meeting this evening at 7 p.m. It'll take place in the Rennie Forum of Prince George's Community College. There will be other town hall meetings on the redistrict issue across Maryland, but this is the only one scheduled for Prince George's County.